Check. Facebook good, Instagram good.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our monthly live broadcast. This is the question and answer. We are now doing 2 live broadcasts every month. The first one in the beginning of the month is doing questions and answers. You can ask questions. We also have now a forum where you can go put some questions that you ask. We'll be asking all the questions up until now. Put onto that. Organizing that app by month. So we'll make a post in the next few days for the Tea of the Month questions for the next broadcast. We'll make a category for that within the Q&A. And then we're doing a second broadcast at the end of the month, which this month will be 28, 29, sometime like that. And that one is all about just about the Tea of the Month. We get drink the Tea of the Month together, discuss the Tea of the Month, and answer questions about the Tea of the Month, explore it, and learn together. So this month, we're drinking the purple red tea, so that's what we'll be doing at the end of this tea and discussing that tea. But this is more of an open forum, an open Q&A. I should start by introducing Global Tea Hut. Global Tea Hut is a magazine with 0 advertisements, full of tea wisdom, cover to cover, more in depth than any English magazine on earth. We have some really rad issues coming up. In fact, the next issue, September, is every September, which is the very important holiday in Taiwan, and traditionally all over the world. It's the harvest moon. It's the largest moon of the year. And for people living in a lunar calendar, that's really important, and it's a time of abundance. So we have a tradition now. This is our 4th year of doing this tradition of, instead of a gift, in September we give more magazine. So it's about a magazine and a half, which means about 100 pages. And we then have the opportunity to dive into topics more deeply than before. The first year we did the poor, was aside from that sociological thesis by the Yunanese girl, it was the largest English publication on poor in the world. Then we translated the Cha Jing. We used Cha Jing, one of the most important classics of tea. And last year we produced the largest publication in English on Taiwanese oolong. This year we also have another of the most in-depth, largest publications in the English language on another topic. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm going to let it be a surprise. But it's we're hard at work on it. It's going to be so amazing, so stunning. You guys are going to love it. You're going to learn a lot, a tremendous amount. Of course, Global Tea Hut every month comes with tea. All the tea is sustainably produced and partially or completely donated to us. And finally, Global Tea Hut is a community of tea lovers around the world who explore and learn and make friends together and fellowship. And all the proceeds from our magazine go to support our free center in Taiwan that you yourself can visit. We offer 10-day courses twice a month. You can learn more at tsagehut.org. You can learn about the magazine or subscribe at globalteahut.org. If you go to tsagehut.org, you can see the schedules of 10-day courses. 10-day courses are a deep immersion into tea practice so that by the end of the 10 days, you can go home and comfortably start a tea practice yourself. You learn about water, you learn about fire, you learn a couple brewing methods, 2 or 3. You go to a tea farm, process your own tea, and learn how to begin practicing tea in your own life. So it's a beautiful opportunity to learn and grow in tea. If you're new, you'll get a deep immersion. If you're older student, you can deepen your practice. We also have a very special couple of retreats coming up. In September, we have a tea and qigong retreat happening here in Taiwan, in the mountains, not here in the center. There'll be Chinese medical treatments, acupuncture. There'll be qigong lessons every day, tea lessons every day, a few hours of meditation, nice tea drinking and walking around. It'll be really beautiful and stunning. We'll have a great time. And then in October, we have our annual Zen and Tea retreat in the Pyrenees in Spain, which is absolutely stunning. We've taken out usually in Zen retreats, there's walking meditation around the meditation hall, a few periods a day, 20 minutes. We've taken that out, and instead we're going on hikes for about 90 minutes every morning in silence all around the mountains with one of the best guides I've ever had. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. The food is gorgeous. The center itself is gorgeous. The participants last year, maybe if any of them are here live, they can post some comments about what it was like. It's absolutely amazing. Happens at a beautiful, beautiful retreat center called Casa Cuadrado. You can, we'll link the website. You can go to there and get more information and sign up. It's an amazing, amazing retreat, the best I've ever been to, and it's our second in what I hope will be many, many years of this Zen and Tea retreat in the Pyrenees. Also, final announcement, the photo contest is ending this month. We've decided to extend it all the way to the end of the month. It will end at the end of August. We're then going to announce the winners in the November issue and send out some really beautiful prizes. At the end of this month, or the beginning of next month, I'll be announcing our next contest, which will also be very, very cool. Very different, but very cool. So, let's turn to questions. Maybe we do the ones from the app first that have been collected all this month, and then next time let's make a category for Tea of the Month, broadcast August, end of August, or August Purple Red Tea or something for the next broadcast, so we can start collecting questions for that too. So let's start with the app questions that have been accumulated on the app, and then we'll turn to the live questions.
So we have a question from Elena in New York. She wants to know a little bit more about the Heart Sutra. She's just got
the Heart Sutra is my favorite sutra, and I could talk for days and days and days. I've studied it for almost 25 years now and not plumbed its depths. What I love about it is that it is very, very similar to tea in a very key way. In the way that tea spans the mundane and the sacred, the profane and the sacred, and it bridges the two. It's a way for those cultivating themselves to not be isolated and feel like they're better or different from other people. You can connect to ordinary folk. Everyone in the world's drinking tea. Everyone understands tea as hospitality and kindness. It's an everyday thing that everybody can connect through, but it's also a doorway to really profound, deep insight, and has been for thousands of years. The Heart Sutra is the same. The Heart Sutra is a protective, in fact the last part of the Heart Sutra was added later on, because it's part of a protective kind of spell, whatever you want to say. But it's used by the most ordinary people all over the world. In fact, thousands and thousands and thousands of people are chanting it every day. So when you start chanting it, you're getting into that groove. You're connecting to a tradition, a groove that was worn in long before you were born, and that's happening all over the world. You like Global Tea, how when you drink your tea of the month, people are drinking that same tea with you all over the world, and this is one globe. So the same ocean that laps on your shore is also cresting on the shores of people in Australia or Taiwan or wherever people are drinking it. The Heart Sutra is everywhere. It's on ties, it's on pens, it's on rings, it's on necklaces, it's on shirts, it's on bath towels, it's on everything. Teapots, of course, it's on everything as a protective, sacred symbol. It's on this genshui, actually, sitting right here. And it's right here on this genshui. So maybe we can zoom in and have a look at the same genshui. It's right here on the genshui. The Heart Sutra is everywhere, and so it's been used by really mundane people for a long time. But it's called the Heart Sutra. It doesn't mean this heart, like a heart, like in the way we use the heart, like a emotion, or to say that something's heartfelt. It's not that kind of heart. It's called the Heart Sutra. It means heart of the matter, the essence, the pith, the inner truth, the deepest part. It's the heart in that meaning. It's not heart in the terms of like emotion or something like that. It's heart in terms of the essence of the matter. So it condenses all Buddhist teachings into a very, 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 very short, very, 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 very dense and powerful teaching. So it takes thousands of years of teachings and condenses them as really as sharp and as laser focused as you can possibly get without resorting to silence and direct non-verbal transmission. As far as words go, this is as close as it gets to the essence. And for that reason, the Heart Sutra is beyond profundity. 25 years of studying it, and I have no idea what it means. You can take the scholarly road, you can take the existential road, you can take the metaphysical road, you can take all kinds of philosophical roads to understanding it. You can take them all, like I have read every book in English that exists and some in Chinese. It hasn't helped. It's profound. It's a bridge between the wordless place, the gateless gate, and the intellect. So its aim is to break the intellect down to help us to pass through that gate. And more could be said. I could do a 7-day course on the Heart Sutra, and we could talk every day for an hour. So that's enough of a brief introduction.
So we got another question from Chris. He wants to know why some teas have a more palatable cha-chi than others.
Cha-chi also is a very complicated topic because that's the mind separating the world, and that's useful. We analyze, we break down, we conceptualize, we categorize. Jen shui, teapot, teaboat, teacup. We separate things, but in reality, they're not separate. Qi is the energy and movement of this universe. It's the flow. When you drink tea, it's not like you are a static tube. You are a metal tube and the tea is passing through you. So there's not really cha-chi, right? The tea got its chi from the sun, from the moon, from the water, from the rivers, from the mountain, and the leaves did not arise ex nihilo. They came from the environment. And then you drink that tea and it's you that's moving. It's not tea moving through you. It's tea catalyzing the movement of you. Why teas have different amounts of qi is the as I just said, the leaves are not produced ex nihilo. They don't come from nothing. They are a product of their environment. They are a product of the tea takes in its environment and creates leaves. So what kind of environment means what kind of leaves? A rich, full, biodiverse environment where the trees have room to extend deep roots and are healthy and strong. Well, they'll take in from that strong environment, produce strong leaves, and those strong leaves catalyze strong movement in you. When we add chemicals to tea, like chemical fertilizers, we're essentially bringing, even organic fertilizers, we're essentially bringing food from another environment to the tea farm and feeding it from that other ecology, so the trees aren't eating from the soil and minerals of their environment. And when we irrigate, then they don't dig down roots and drink that mountain water. And we add pesticides, we kill insects, and we drive off the things that eat insects and the things that eat those things, and all of those creatures waste poop and their dead bodies, which nitrogenize and fertilize the soil, and that whole the complexity and wholeness of all of that environment creates powerful leaves. So trees that are grown as living tea, right, in environments that the tea is naturally produced, which means seed propagated. It has room to grow. It grows roots down. It's not irrigated. It doesn't have any chemicals. There's a lot of biodiversity, so it can have all those relationships to a rich and thriving ecology as it was intended to. Such you know, a tree will take in that environment, create leaves that are full like that. When you drink that tea, it will catalyze movement in you because those leaves have within them a lot more energy. Qi is energy. This is not metaphysical or spiritual. It's the movement of physical energy. All matter is energy.
There is a.
Is that it for the app questions?
Yeah, that's all right.
That's it. We don't have much questions in both feeds yet. There's people sending greetings and love from all the world. There's someone asking if you sell teaware.
We have a little bit of teaware. We're not a tea shop. You know, we every year we have a little bit of tea and or teaware. We don't every year have teaware. This year we do. But just a few cakes of pour and some teaware, all of which we sell transparently. So if we don't openly say on the website our cost, feel free to email us and we're happy to tell you our cost. It's all done for a fundraiser to build our future center, Light Meets Life. This center is beautiful and wonderful, but it has an issue, which if you go to the tstagehut.org website and look at the courses, you'll see they're most all booked because we don't have enough room to meet the demand of people that want to come here and study tea. And so we'd like to build a permanent, large center that can have up to 15 residents and up to 40 guests any day. To raise money for that future center, we do a fundraiser every year with some tea and teaware, and we save all that money in a bank in Los Angeles for the time when we build the new center. That will be called Light Meets Life. And yeah, so all the tea and teaware is donation based. We give a minimum donation, but you're free to give more than that, and any more you give will help build your tea center. If you don't yet feel like it's your tea center, we hope that you, over time, as you subscribe to Global Tea Hut, as you participate in this community, you do start to feel that way. Especially as you come here, you will certainly feel that having been here. So this year we do have some teaware. We have some Yixing teapots, some Jula and Chu Wagons Wheel teapots. Go to globalteahut.org, and then if you go to the tea and teaware drop down, there's Yixing teapots in there. And we are going to have some more teaware this year. We have some kettles coming. We have some gongfu kettles and some bolti kettles. We have some side handle pots, and we have some gentray, and that's it. And we have some really amazing cakes of tea coming very, very soon too.
Maybe you can tell more about cakes.
The cakes this year, amazing. We got some amazing, amazing cakes this year. We already have one that has already arrived called Boundlessness. It's it's an old growth, wild shengpur from Uliang, which is the highest tea growing mountain in Yunnan. Peaks at like 3,300 meters, something like that. This tea comes from like 2,300. So it's different from other pur because it has more of a relationship to the sky than the jungly foresty pur that grows down south of Chichonbana, etc. So it's a powerful, powerful, beautiful, beautiful tea. One of the best shengpurs I've ever had. Uliang hasn't yet touched the market. It was also 40% donated. So Uliang's cheaper because the market's not as interested in it yet, and also it was partially donated. So you know, our cost is $70–$80. I think 78, something like that, and we're selling it for 108. It's the minimum donation. It's a very powerful tea. We only made 100 cakes. We can only get 25 kg of it because it's wild tea, and it's amazing. I suggest getting one. I think there's a few expansion packs left for this month too. So every few months, whenever we can, we do an expansion pack because 12 teas a year is not really enough to learn. You'd love to learn about as much from drinking tea as you do from reading about it. And so every so often we create an expansion pack. The aim is not to fundraise. It's purely educational. It's to offer rarer, better quality, or alternative options that are topically focused. So whatever the topic of the magazine is, the expansion pack expands upon it. And it could be anything from 1 to 10 teas, or or 80. It doesn't matter. Whatever we can afford for around $40. Then we do a minimum donation of $50 because we do flat shipping, and the extra $10 allows us to cover packaging and differences in shipping price. But we don't really raise any money. And the expansion packs then allow you to more deeply understand the topics in each issue. This month's very special because this month's tea of the month is one of our favorite teas of all time. It's a wild purple bud processed as red tea from Dohong that we call Evening Sky. Many of you know it. We've been drinking it for years, and you know it's wild, it's beautiful. And the expansion pack is from older trees deeper in the forest, and the older trees, there's very, very few of them. We got the entire harvest for this year, and we also got it partially donated by a kind middleman. So, so you get 200 grams of that tea, which is a big bag for only $50, and it is absolutely stunning. If you love Evening Sky, this is Evening Sky times 5. It's a step up. It's different in flavor because it's all buds, but it's very, very deep tea because it's the same trees as Evening Sky, just older trees, more old growth, much more older and much deeper and higher in the mountains. So it's really beautiful, and I believe there's like 20 more than half are gone. So there's like around 20 left. I'd suggest getting the expansion pack this month. It's a real special one.
The question from Instagram: does caffeine dissipate over time, and also are caffeine levels affected in the artificial fermentation process of show pour?
To start out with, in general, I will answer your question. To start out with, I'm not a huge fan of the whole topic of caffeine. Why I don't like it is because I don't resonate so much, and this might be very different for you. It's okay. I'm okay with it. It's not. I'm not arguing against the anything. I'm not arguing against anything. I'm just expressing my preference, which I think that one of the sad things in the modern world is we haven't, at least in most people's consciousness, we haven't separated doing science. Science is an activity, it's a pursuit of knowledge, it's a way of learning from a scientific worldview, which is materialistic, it's consumptive, it treats nature like stuff, and it allows us to commoditize and commercialize living beings and energy and treat this world like a soulless machine. I don't feel on a daily basis like an aggregate of chemicals. Do you feel like an aggregate of chemicals? When you greet people, do you say how fair your chemicals now? Are your molecules bonding properly? Is that how you live? Is that how you work? I don't think that worldview really resonates with our experience. What is caffeine? Caffeine is a concept on a whiteboard, and it is also an isolate in a laboratory. And so it's a concept or it's an isolate. But in nature, caffeine is bonded to other more complicated molecules. It's a part of its environment. And so, the caffeine in chocolate is different than caffeine in coffee, is different than caffeine in tea, is different from every tea. The different tea varietals all have different caffeine content. And then the processing certainly affects the tea. The artificial fermentation of Shopur reduces caffeine to some extent, but this is, minuscule. Caffeine, is there in all tea. Caffeine is a sacred molecule. It is beautiful. Tea releases caffeine slowly. You could say it's time-released medicine. So it's not like coffee or soda that gives it to you all in one rush. It's much more gentle on your system and healthy for you. Just to express this from a personal basis, when I was, I drank tea as a kid because I studied martial arts, but I didn't really fall in love with it until I was like 18, my first year in college. Like all things, you have to close the door to open a window, as they say. When you stop something else can come in your life. So I had to make space for tea to come back into my life. And what was happening was, my freshman year, I was a good student. I was studying a lot until late hours of the night, and I was drinking a lot of coffee, and I kept having a prostatitis, which is basically inflammation of the prostate. It's very, very uncomfortable. Your prostate swells up. In a man, the prostate's right near the bladder, so when it pushes on the bladder, you feel like you have to urinate all the time, and it's uncomfortable. And I kept going to the doctor, and they'd give me antibiotics, it'd go away, but it kept coming back. And I knew this wasn't, I'm not going to continue this cycle. I'm also way too young to be having these problems. So in those days, there's no internet. I went down into the basement in the library. I used to do this all the time and use microfiche to search through articles, the reading articles. And at that time, I was very interested in a holistic healer who, at that point, was not famous at all. We're talking early 90s. And he's now very famous, Andrew Weil. And so I found an Andrew Weil article where he said some men are sensitive to caffeine, allergic to it, and it aggravates their prostate. And I realized, surely this is my problem. I'm drinking tons of coffee. This is why my prostate is getting aggravated. And so I quit drinking coffee, which, like 3 or 4 months later, that created this space for tea to come in my life, and I fell in love with tea. And now, 25, 26 years, I've been drinking liters and liters and liters of tea every day. I've never had a single prostate problem, not one. So, this is related to my experience, right? If you're sensitive enough that you feel the molecule of caffeine in your body, then awesome. You're like Dr. Manhattan in Watchmen. You've just got control over the atomic level of your body. You must have done a serious amount of kung fu. Otherwise, what you're talking about is a concept or a psychosomatic feeling when you drink tea or coffee or soda or whatever. But that feeling is much more than caffeine. It's sugar. It's all the other elements of whatever it is you're drinking interacting with whatever's in your body. A 20-year-old who's in good shape can eat some greasy, oily pizza, and it will do something very different to their body than if I do. I'm getting older and overweight, and so that pizza is very, very bad for me, and I have digestive sensitivity. So it also matters what the body is that the substance is going into. This is all very complicated. But in general, I try to separate science and the practice of science, which I very much believe in, and the scientific method, and that using that method to explore the world and to discover and uncover truth through that method from a scientific worldview which has been popularized by a commercial economy, by a market-based economy, by a capitalist economy that reduces and it promotes reductionism, it promotes over-analysis, and it promotes a soulless mechanical worldview that is not concordant with the human experience and not concordant with our truth and our fulfillment and happiness. And it is literally participating in the destruction of our earth and the extinction of all species and life on this planet, including us. So it's a serious aspect. It's just an aspect of the problem, but it's a serious aspect. And I'm not arguing against anything. Just expressing a preference. I would rather approach tea not from as an aggregate of chemicals, as stuff, but as a living being. I once put a quote in Gobotiat magazine that I suggested was written by tea. It was a metaphor, but it was supposed to be written by tea herself. And it said, if you put a human in a machine that analyzed their constituent parts, would that tell you anything about how that person lived or loved, wrote music or poetry? No question mark? Then why do you think you can understand me that way? So I don't want to understand tea through the lens of a product, a material, a matter, stuff, mechanics, or any of that. At least not exclusively. I'm opening to having that lens amongst many. But for me, it's a minor lens. It's like a fisheye lens. It's good to have one, but you don't use it very much. In photography, you use other lenses much more. This isn't the lens that I want to use on a daily basis or that I even use very much. I wouldn't exclude it. I think it's an okay lens to have now and again, a fisheye, but you don't need it all the time. It's the same thing, this approach to tea. I want to understand the science of tea on a chemical and biological level, but I don't want that to represent, but the smallest minority of how I approach tea.
How much tea per day is healthy to drink?
That also depends on your body and the kind of tea you're drinking. I once did this study I wrote this article for a Chinese magazine, and I went to China. I have this friend in Malaysia. I went to China and Malaysia, and I went to and he had all these antique prescriptions written by Chinese doctors dating back all the way to the Qing Dynasty, and tons of them said drink more tea on them. So it was like, take these herbs and drink more tea. And now doctors are saying maybe drink less tea. I mean, I think part of that's a lot to do with production. If tea's inorganic, it's got pesticides, chemicals, it's coming from a sterile environment, unhealthy land, produce unhealthy leaves. Drinking too much of that tea is worse. Drinking, healthy, organic, living tea is great. But this also depends on one's diet and on the kind of tea. I wouldn't suggest drinking a lot of shengpu. It's astringent and bitter, especially if you're a vegetarian, so you have lightness in you. You drink that tea. It's not to say be afraid of that tea. It's just drinking that tea day in and day out, several pots of it, it's going to eventually cause you stomach problems. So it really depends on the tea, depends on the person's constitution, depends on diet, depends on so many factors. Around here we drink usually 2 teas a day, one in the morning, the formal ceremony, and one in the afternoon for the guests to practice what they've learned here, because there is a big practice period in every day of a 10-day course, because that's really important for guests who come. We want them to go home with a practice of their own, so they have to practice, they have to try what they're learning. So it's really 2 a day. One, if I was just living ordinarily in a normal life, 1 tea is enough for a day. Drinking less, no vendor will tell you this, no tea merchant will tell you this, but I'm going to tell you this: drinking less tea does more for the environment than buying organic even. There's no need to drink 10 teas a day. The only reason I can think of for drinking several teas is maybe a special occasion, some kind of celebration, or education, drinking some teas to teach some people about the different kinds of those different teas.
I have a comment from Instagram that this cup looks really large. Are you drinking from above?
It's a little bumpy. It's a Ming Dynasty cup though, and it has a rabbit on it. I'm a rabbit. My whatever zodiac, the rabbit, as a gift from a friend. I'm drinking a green tea, so temperature is just not an issue. So I wanted a big cup because I'm drinking by myself that can hold the whole pot, and I wanted the temperature to be a little bit cooler because I'm brewing. That's why I'm using this Duani. This is a Duani pot. You can maybe zoom in on the Duani pot. I'll show you the beautiful rabbit. This is Ming Dynasty. Ming is 1368 to 1644. This is early Ming. So it's quite a nice piece, because rarely are they painted so detailed. Chinese rarely painted with such detail for ordinary people. This was some kind of special cup. You can see this cup on both sides has a tree and it has a beautiful rabbit. A friend gave it to me. I rarely use it. It's verging on a buck. It is. But I'm not really brewing very casual kitchen tea, and I'm drinking green tea. I'm actually drinking last month's tea of the month, the Maofeng, which is we're loving. We're drinking it a lot. So it's hot here, it's summertime in Taiwan, so drinking green tea is comfortable and good for me. But yeah, it's bumpy, and ordinarily I'm very, very anti-bup.
I'm trying to learn to appreciate young Shengpu, I'm trying to learn to appreciate young Shengpu, but sometimes it's a bit too difficult because there are astringency. Any tips for finding the best way to learn to love this style?
Yeah, I mean, brew it, Saiteno pot. We'll be having a Saiteno ceremony guide coming up in October issue. The October issue is all about Saiteno pots and our tradition, etc. The history, folklore, ceremony, everything you need to know about it. And I'd use less leaves. So bigger pot, big Saiteno pot, bowls, less leaves. Or do leaves in a bowl. Go check out the February issue of Global Tea and you can see about leaves in a bowl tea ceremony. And just put less leaves. Put 2 or 3 leaves in one bowl and drink it very light and start approaching it in that way.
We got 500 grams of red tea. How should we store it?
Just apart from other teas, certainly all tea should be stored in a place that is cool, that has a consistent cooler temperature, so no temperature fluctuation, no light. And the worst place to store tea is in the kitchen. Never, ever, ever store any of your tea in the kitchen. Tea is very sensitive to aromas, so you don't want it around any spices. Kitchens have spices and oils and smell of garlic and all the things you're cooking. So you don't want it in the kitchen. You want it in a cool, dark place where the temperature is consistent, and you want to separate the different kinds of teas. You want red tea away from, Shopur, Shampur, etc., etc.
For someone new to tea, how do you recommend the brushing ceremony and brewing techniques? I'm loving all the teas and I'm following my intuition with each tea received, but sometimes feel overwhelmed by the information. Any advice is greatly appreciated.
Yeah, keep it simple. Don't allow yourself to become overwhelmed. Drink leaves in a bowl for 6 months, and then add a side-on pot and do side-on pot bowl tea, and do that for another 6 months. This is a lifetime practice. There's no need to rush. Learning and practicing need to be balanced, but keep brewing leaves in a bowl as much as you can. And once you get a side handle, then you'll be able to brew all teas. Check out the February issue again. It has the leaves in a bowl ceremony guide. It's for free on our website. It's already up. Go check that out if you want to remember. Then go to past issues, Global Tea Hut past issues, February 2017, or if you have that magazine, dig it out of your library. It has a very comprehensive photographic guide for leaves in a bowl ceremony. Stick with that. Keep it simple. And even teas that we suggest to not brew that way can technically still be brewed that way. That's just maybe not ideal. But stay simple. Keep it simple. Keep it leaves, water, and heat. There's nothing else. There are no other parameters. Learn to connect with this plant. Learn to converse with it. Get out of that scientific worldview, that consumptive, materialistic, mechanical worldview of an earth made of stuff and machines and things to exploit and commercialize, and start to communicate with nature as an entity or entities, as beings, living beings, which it is, and that perspective heals us. That's a big part of what the medicine of tea is for.
So I got a question on Facebook from James, Australia. He'll be serving tea for 40 people in a few weeks and wants to know, or ask for some advice. Serve tea that many people.
I mean, I'll give you a little bit of tips, but my ultimate stepping back, my advice is that if you need advice to serve tea to 40 people, you shouldn't be serving tea to 40 people. I don't recommend publicly serving tea until one's practice has been cultivated to a place where you are ready to do that, because it's very difficult to guard against the egoic aspect of being the center of attention, right? A lot of people want to commercialize tea ceremony, right? And nothing could be farther from tea spirit. Tea spirit is free. Sometimes we have to charge for events. We have to have donations. We always use the language of donations. We always do free events no matter what city we go to. We do free events there. We always have scholarships for people that can't afford it. We try to use sliding scales. We try to use language of donation. One day, hopefully, our center will be abundant enough that when we do travel, we can do all our events on a pure donation basis. But for now, there's the expense of food and airplanes and things. But if I was serving tea locally, I would never commercialize that. Why are you trying to make money off your spiritual practice? And if you're not really balanced with those two, right, really comfortable in the earth side, the charge and the money and what the money's being used for, etc., and the spiritual practice, then they won't mix well. They'll be like oil and water. You have to have your spirituality very grounded in the earth, and your earth very grounded in your spiritual practice, and they have to be in very good balance and a very healthy relationship for you to successfully navigate that. Otherwise, this is why for hundreds of years in Chinese culture, if not thousands, people have there's old sayings, right? You never charge for the Tao. You never charge for the teachings. I recommend steering clear of that. I'd also recommend, spending a year or two practicing tea, serving it to your friends, serving it in private places before you go public, because otherwise you're demonstrating what, right? I'm not, I'm only capable of endorsing and authoritizing people in my lineage who have trained in my lineage, just as I've been given transmission and been given permission to teach those students of mine that I could give permission to teach are then representing this lineage when they go out and serve tea. Anyone else in any other lineage, it's not my business. And so you want to serve tea in your lineage to publicly, you should get permission from your teacher to do so. Just like any teacher since the beginning of time got permission from their teacher before they started publicly teaching, because you're showing up and representing that lineage that you're a member of. So, and then finally, I repeat the thing that I said, which is, tea is about tea. People come to have tea. They come to share tea, and there's a danger of making it about you and promoting yourself or promoting what you're doing as opposed to what tea is doing in her medicine and being part of that street. So for me, it's about lineage. It's about permission. It's about training, proper training. And I don't mean to be condescending in any way. So all that said, I will give you some advice. For me, if I was serving tea to 40 people, I would serve the leaves in a bowl, or I would boil tea, and I would have people in this lineage there to help me. So it would be a concerted group effort. And my experience in training would facilitate all that.
So we got another question on Facebook from Lopa. She has asked whether you can perhaps provide some resources or advice on starting a Qigong or Tai Chi practice, specifically related to supporting the tea practice.
Yeah, tea and Qigong are wonderful for tea. In our tradition, we practice what we call the 8 bowls. They're just 8 aspects of life, and service, ethics, meditation, bowl tea, gong fu tea, etc., etc. And so they're different aspects of our daily practice here. And one of them is diet and movement. So we use diet and movement as part of our life. And for a long time, it was my weakest one. I'm very mountainous. I like meditative energy. I settle real easy, but I find movement and very difficult. And I also have problems with food in the sense of eating not always for my nutrition but for comfort or emotional reasons. But in the last 2 months, I have made a decision to change my life, and I've been exercising every day, been eating very healthy, and the impact on my tea and on my life and on my practice is of course huge, as anyone who gets into an exercise and diet practice will know. And I'm going to continue it. It's wonderful to, after so many years, have mastered that side of the final of the bowls. That bowl for me was always had the least liquor in it of all the 8 bowls, and so I feel very proud to make that change. And when I speak in terms of affirmations of change in my life, I always make it a two-part affirmation. The first being, I am free to transform my body and to live with a life that incorporates exercise and nutritional diet. And then the second half of that, which is I am free to enjoy doing that. And that's a powerful and important aspect of the affirmation when you're trying to make goals and change your life. The first is to say you're free to do that thing, but the second is you're free to enjoy it. So you're free to actually get past the place where it's a task or a job and get to the place where it's something you love to do. And I'm getting to that place now. I'm starting to love it. So it's very beautiful and powerful for me. Tai Chi and Qigong are wonderful. I'd suggest finding a lineage, a local teacher. Come in September to our Qigong and tea retreat, Lopa. Love to have you. It's going to be in the mountains here. I'm one of the best Qigong teachers on this whole planet. Some of you know it's Global Tea App member Dave Meladu. He has like 30 years of experience doing Qigong, and he's been teaching for a long time. And he also is a Chinese doctor with decades of experience, and so he's going to be doing treatments. It's in a beautiful center up in the mountains. It's going to be gorgeous, and in those 7 days, I think you'll get a deep immersive jump into Qigong. So, otherwise, find a local teacher, find a tradition. Qigong and Tai Chi are wonderful and go hand in hand with tea, or if not, some other kind of diet and movement. Of course, tea loves vegetarianism. I don't want to go too deep into that. Vegetarian or vegan diet is conducive to Chajin. If you're a Chajin, over time, eventually in this lifetime or the next, you will realize that eating vegetarian and or vegan will improve your sensitivity, your ability to taste tea, and you will very much realize very quickly within a month how tea loves this. She responds to it. Your ability to taste her improves. So many people, told me this as they've changed. Most people need like 6 months to notice the physical difference of being vegetarian. Tea people can do it usually in a month. They're like, wow, my teas are all different. And so, and then as far as exercise, any exercise. I've been running and swimming, and I love both.
Can you come to Canada? I offer a festival called Bloom. What should I would love to have you offer these teachings on a workshop level.
Yeah, I mean, there's a possibility. Never taught in Canada. I've been to Canada, but I've never taught there. There's a possibility for that, maybe in 2018. I'm going to travel a little bit less next year, but the possibility's there. Contact globaltea@gmail.com with information about the event and the dates and etc. And we can talk about it.
And there was one more question about Lineage itself. What is your Lineage?
So our lineage, we're calling it the tradition of the hut. It's actually a nexus of 3 lineages. This happens, every so often in history, in lineages. Tibetan Buddhism, for example, is a combination of Tibetan shamanism, which is called Bon, and Hinduism and Buddhism, all kind of mixing in that pot. Zen is very much a birth of Taoism and Zen. One of the patriarchs of my Zen lineage, Dogen, he had 3 teachers. He had a Japanese, two Japanese, and a Chinese, and one important Japanese and one important Chinese, so 2 or 3. And he was a nexus, so they come together and they work together. It happens sometimes. It's up for each generation's responsibility to first understand their tradition, and then once they understand it, to adapt it to suit the time so that it grows and evolves. But you have to understand first before you adapt. So your adaptations aren't about making things quicker and convenient. They aren't about ego and what you want, but about what's best for the tradition itself as it evolves and moves forward from generation to generation. And I would hope future generations that use our Center Life Means Life transform also this lineage to suit where the places and times and styles of tea that they're brewing. But basically our tradition is a combination. I'm an ordained Soto Zen priest, monk. So we have a tea tradition that comes through Soto Zen, and we have a tradition of Gong Fu tea that Gong Fu tea all starts in Chaozhou. But our Gong Fu tea is Malaysian, Chinese, and then some shamanistic traditions that are related to ancient Taoism and etc. And these 3 things coming together, we've given the title of the tradition of the hut, and these teachings came together in a really beautiful way and have created, as time goes on, more and more systems, teachings, brewing methods, and a community. That's what a tradition is, right? It's an approach to tea, it's brewing methods, and it's a family, a community. And so these 3 things have come together, and they've solidified, and they've found their way. As we go, they continue to grow and change and evolve and perfect and refine to suit the kinds of tea that we're serving around the world, our people in this lineage. And then as it's handed to the next generation, their job is to first understand completely, then to become. You become the teachings. They're not something you wear, they're not something you put on, they're not something you ape, they're something you become. And then once you are those teachings, your adaptations are the tradition's adaptations, because you are it. And that's very real.
Will you write any more books? Your writing is wonderfully transformative.
Mm-hmm. Lots of books. I mean, the problem right now is bandwidth. I'm producing a 60-page magazine a month. It's a ton of work. It takes 100 to 200 hours of my time, and that's on top of teaching and traveling, etc. This year I traveled. I will have traveled 5 or 6 months out of the year, And my plan is to travel in the last next year, focus on some more journalism, traveling. I will travel, but not on teaching tours. Go to China, do more journalism, nurture some relationships with some tea people there, so I can write some articles and source some really awesome teas to share in Global Tea Hut. And I do have 2 or 3 unfinished tea books. Personally, I have a tea book that's about 80% done. That's all the like legends and folklore of tea. Not all, but a lot. Tons and tons. Just retellings of tons of tea folklore, like, you know, the story of why cheats are called 7 Sun in Pu'er, the story of Dong Bao, the story of all, you know, the Emperor of the Teapot, all kinds of stories like this, and then a few of my own fictional stories, and then a lot of poetry. So it's like an amalgam of stories and poetry, and there's a very good chance that it'll come out next year. Also, the tradition of the hut, I talked earlier, as we refine and solidify this generation, and we figure out, you know, very much now we know who we are. As these traditions came together here in this center, there was some, you know, we had to practice and understand and then become, and all that's happened. And as that's solidified, it's our intention to produce, 12 textbooks over the coming like 10 years. And it's my aim to have the first, so 5 of them will be about tea brewing, and 7 will be about the 7 genres of tea. 1 for each of the genres of tea, and then 5 will be about tea brewing. And so it's my intention in 2018 to also try to publish the first 2 textbooks, the first brewing textbook and the first tea textbook. First brewing textbook will be about bowl tea, all about bowl tea, leaves in a bowl, side in a pot boiling, all the bowl tea, and the first tea textbook of the 7 genres will be Pu'er. Will be all about Pu'er. It'll be the largest Pu'er book on earth, and we're working on that. And in the end, I want them to be not written by me though. I'm gonna edit them, but they're gonna be by several authors, because you have different authors that have different areas of expertise, and you get many more perspectives that way when you work on it. At the beginning of this year, I had this goal by end of 2018 to publish these 2 textbooks, and I wasn't sure how I was going to achieve it with bandwidth problems, with focusing on the magazine and traveling and stuff. So I came up with a really good idea, which is, you know, the Pu'er book and the bowl tea book, for example. Let's just take the bowl tea book. The bowl tea book was like halfway done. So how to find the time to finish the other half? I decided, I thought about it, and I decided what I would do is I would finish the other half serially, by publishing the second half of the bowl tea textbook in Global Tea Hut magazine. I'm knocking 2 peaches down with 1 swipe. I don't like to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, but I'm knocking 2 peaches down with 1 swipe. So I'm, taking care of my work, my responsibilities to the magazine, and also finishing the second half of the textbook. So when the textbook does come out, some of it's going to be familiar to Global Tea Hut members, because half of it has been and will continue to be published in the magazine serially. So February 2017, the Leaves in a Bowl Tea Ceremony Guide, that actually is a chapter from the textbook as well. And in October we have the Side Handle Ceremony Guide, that also is a chapter in the Bowl Tea textbook. So I'm finishing these books, both of them, serially in the magazine, and then just amalgamate them into the textbooks. So I hope in 2018 my goal may or may not happen, inshallah, as they say, God willing, to have 2 textbooks and 1 book of my own, which will be about all the folklore and stories and myths, and some of my own personal stories and poetry in a book.
We also those posts of different Global Tea Hut members taking precepts in your tradition and receiving new names, but can you please explain a little about what does that mean? How to process, duration, etc.
In most Asian lineages, from Hindu to Buddhist to Taoist, whatever it is, in most Asian lineages, transmission happens kind of in 3 stages. They're called different things in different traditions, but the first stage is initiation. That's where you come into the tradition, you're accepted as a member. The second is what we call precepts. That's where you take your vows, your marriage to the tradition, start becoming it. You now have responsibilities. You now move forward. And then the third is Inca, or transmission, where you become a teacher. You're not a student anymore. You're a teacher. You You have the authority to speak on behalf of the tradition, to teach, to hold courses, etc. My aim is to have as many of those teachers as soon as possible to hand this over to the next generation. There's some students that are very much on that track. The way to get on the track is to show up. We're not a cult in the negative sense of the word. There's no us and them. Our aim is we're just a department. We're a department in the office building of T, which is a department in the office building of Save the Earth. Our tradition has something to offer to everyone. We offer roadside tea. So you come and sit down and share one bowl of tea, or you come to an event, a public tea ceremony, we serve you some bowls of tea, some peace, some love, a space of loving kindness, no teachings at all, maybe an introduction, and you go and we never see you again. Fine, one bowl if that's all you want. And then, if you want to learn more and you want to take some pieces and apply it to your practice, fine. We're putting a lot of the teachings out for free in broadcasts, in Global TF Magazine, on YouTube. But there's only, you can have the form, you can't have the soul. The soul is not available for free. It's not something, you can learn how to do something. You can go online and copy the form of a particular kind of martial arts, but you're not going to have the soul of it without showing up and being there and being a part of it, participating. But participation is the way to move forward. Service. This is a tradition of service. We're not here to learn how to make tea. We're here to learn how to serve tea. So service and showing up, and that's how people move forward. People have, you have to be invited to move from the stage of initiation to taking precepts. And that happens when service starts happening. When you start showing up, as people who show up more. There's no favoritism. You might come on our Global TF trip and see that I devote more energy to particular students. It's not because I like them more. It's nothing personal. It's to do with them showing up more, being more receptive, and participating more. And then, of course, they're going to get more. Their bowl is empty. They drink it. They digest. They consume. They become. Then they get another bowl. They drink it. They digest. They consume. They become. They get another bowl. And so, as you go through that process of putting your empty bowl out, drinking, consuming, becoming, you get another one and another one and another one, and the speed at which you can do that is your own personal spiritual constitution. So that's how that transmission happens. It just happens through service, through participation. There's no secret esoteric barriers. There's a new name given to you when you take precepts, because it's to celebrate transformation. We don't call a car a hunk of steel. When stuff transforms, it gets a new name, when it becomes something else. Right? And many, many cultures in the world, Native American cultures, other indigenous cultures, Chinese people, would change their name throughout their lifetime based on their actions, because I'm not the same person I was as a teenager. I don't know I could even have a conversation with that dude. I don't know how we relate at all. He seems dead and a new person has come. So transformation is there, and we can, and we call things by a new name. And you don't need to use, not everybody who gets precept T name uses it on a daily basis. I think Ching still, introduces himself as Colin, Tien. Sometimes he introduces himself as Balin. Maybe some other times say Tien. It's you use the name as you see fit. It's not a name it's not to legally change your name. It's just a celebration. Ceremonies are celebrations of what already is. Especially nowadays, if a couple gets married, they've probably already been living together. They're already in love, and this is just a public ceremony to celebrate what already is. So same with precepts, is taking vows, having a ceremony to celebrate what already is. And then there's ceremonies around that are traditional, and we practice those, and ceremonialize and celebrate those rites of passage, those transitions in life. So it's my aim to get as many teachers as soon as possible. There's some students that are on track to that, Tien, for example, and Sean, and etc. Hopefully some of that Inca, that transmission will be happening soon. But that's basically it, participation.
You mentioned that you've decided to make change in your life. I'm just wondering, how do you remind and motivate yourself to continue that practice daily and avoid returning to old habits? It's a question from Rich.
So I mean the I don't know if you can see, but I'm very proud. I've lost about 8 kg. I want to lose another 8, so I'm about halfway there. But I've lost 8 kg in the last month and a half, 2 months. I don't know if it shows up on the camera.
Yeah, we have a comment about that from Andy. Like, is it camera or audio?
No, I've lost 8 kg. I've been exercising every day. I've been eating super healthy. and I feel great. I think it's important to, like I said, important to have the affirmation have two sides. The first side is the I am free to in my case, I'm free to transform my body and to exercise daily and eat in a way that is more nutritionally based than based on comfort, psychological eating, or overeating. And I'm free to do that. But then it's important, Rich, to have that second side, which is to keep saying the affirmation of I am free to enjoy doing those things. So let's say you wanna meditate every day. You can start saying the affirmation I'm free to meditate every day, and also the affirmation I'm free to enjoy meditating every day. So you are free to make this not a hardship, a battle. Right? I always start Zen retreats, Rich, you came on once, by saying don't make the schedule, don't make the rules your enemy, make them your ally. So make the change your ally, make it your friend. It may take a little time. For me, it took about 2.5 weeks, but after about 2.5 weeks, I started to enjoy it. Yesterday, I worked really hard on the magazine and I didn't have time for my exercises. The first day I missed in about a month. And I missed it. Honestly missed it. I'm okay. There's no danger that I'm not going to exercise today. I will be running this afternoon because I missed it yesterday. I want to do it now, and not every day is it there yet, but it's rounding the bend. It's turning the corner from I am free to transform my body to I enjoy doing so. I'm enjoying it. It's summer here, so I'm eating raw right now. I don't intend on eating raw for any long duration, which is not to say I have anything against raw diets, but I actually love it, and I'm also fasting once a week, and I'm just I'm eating more healthy foods and that are based on nutrition, and it feels really good. And then the exercise is so important for me. Such a mountainous dude, fat, mountainous. My energy's downwards. I'm a mountain man, not a beach guy. I'm not an active, outgoing person. I never have been. I'm an inward, cave-dwelling monk who spent many years staring at a wall, so my energy's down. It's hard to motivate towards movement, but as I do it more, I start to love it more. I start to love the way I feel. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the transformation process, and I'm not too hung up. Don't get too hung up on the goal either. Focus on what you're doing, and set goals. Obviously, I'm not saying don't have goals. I set goals. Just I'm focused more on getting what I'm doing done. If I start thinking about all the stuff I need to do over the next year, it can be overwhelming. Focus on what I need to do today, and I can handle it. And be okay with not meeting your goals perfectly. Yesterday, I told you I didn't get a chance to exercise because I had a huge day of work, and I only finished about 90% of what I planned on doing, but I still, in the evening I told all the guys, I feel really good about finishing that 90%. I was proud of that, so anyway, the transformation is going really well. Hopefully I'm only about halfway there, got another half to go, and the numbers aren't really important to me. I'm not trying to look a certain way. I'm not trying to get to a certain number. I don't really care about that. I just want to feel good and feel healthy and not be overweight at all. But based on my height and the average of what most doctors say I should weigh, somewhere between 75 and 78 kilos. I'm down to about just under 83 now, and I was at like 91, 92. So got a little bit more to go, halfway.
There's a lot of respondent and gratefulness for inspiration, like all these comments. There's no question that like people very grateful. From Wapa, thank for this inspiration. Get into phases where I have so many good excuses to not excuse. There's from Ray so much inspiration.
Let me tell you the last teaching I'll give, and then we'll end today. Look, something I teach all the time. Making space for meditation is the primary meditation. This is a Buddhist slogan. Right? It doesn't matter what technique of meditation you practice if you only do it 15 minutes a week. And the guides and books and teachings of teachers that show the way in meditation are also not important if you're doing that much. More of your effort needs to focus on making space for meditation. If you have a meditation technique, once you show up in that space, it will kickstart itself. but making the space is where more of the effort has to be placed. You have to put more of your effort into making space. That can mean physical space, but in this day and age, in our busy schedules, it more often means time, making the time. If meditation is your goal, make time for meditation and it will come. If tea practice is your goal, make time for tea and you'll know what to do once you have that time. The same for me. The gym is right down the road. Miali is like 2 kilometers across. This is a teeny town. It takes 2 minutes. I can walk in 10 minutes to the gym, right? And once I get to the gym, I know exactly what to do. Or if I'm running, once I get out on the country roads that I like to run on, I know exactly what to do. I put on the headphones, I put on some rock and roll music, and I start running, and within a short time, I'm enjoying it, right? In the very beginning, it was a little hard, but now I'm enjoying it. Or I go swimming, I'm enjoying that. Or I go to the gym, I'm enjoying that. Once I'm there, I know what to do, and it's effortless. It's the getting there that's the problem. It's the getting there to the gym that's the problem. I can make all kinds of excuses. That 1.3 kilometer to the gym might as well be 100 sometimes when you're sitting upstairs and you don't want to go and you're feeling lazy, or the road outside, it seems so far away even though it's just a couple of minutes away for me to go running. So make the time, make the space, and then once you're in that activity, it kickstarts itself. You know what to do, your body knows what to do, and you start to enjoy it. As soon as I'm out there, it's fine. It's just the getting out there that was the problem. And so now I've made a priority of making that time in my day. I've set that time aside. And set it aside in my mind, and set it aside in my schedule. I've just set it there. It's there. That's why I'm not worried that yesterday I missed one day, the first day in like a month and a half. But I'm not worried because it's there in my mind. It was there in my mind yesterday. I just sacrificed it, not out of laziness. That's why I was okay with sacrificing it. If it had been about laziness, I would have gone for it. But it was about reaching a milestone that's very necessary in the magazine, and I did that. But today I'm definitely going running this afternoon, and it's already set aside in my mind, and so I'm going to make it happen. And so set aside the space in your mind, set aside the space in your house. Because if you have a space for meditation in your house and that's all you do there, not only does that space get charged so that when you sit down, the meditative mind arises more easily, but it's sitting there as a reminder. So every time you walk by, you're walking by that space. We live in a tea center. There's all kinds of tea spaces in this center. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. And you're walking by them all the time and you're like, oh yeah, I want to drink tea. I want to practice tea, because you're seeing that space. And so physical space in terms of time, these are important things. Focus your energy on these, and what happens in that space and time will take care of itself. Just make the space and time.
We have a few more questions. What is the status and progress of the Lineage Life Center?
Status is working on it, raising money. We just got we're starting to put together a board. We just got the help of some really beautiful people. A couple, I think, are on this broadcast that are showing up in a really amazing way with intelligence and service. We're going to be asking the community in the next month or two for some help in terms of service. We're getting to the point where we need to hire some people to do certain specific jobs, and we're going to be offering some internships, etc., that are going to start moving this forward. One way you can help, the best way you can help, is subscribe to Global Tea Hut if you haven't. Second, get some teas from the Light Meets Life fundraisers. So far, this will be our 5th year in the fundraisers. So far, we've raised almost $70,000 US in these Light Meets Life fundraisers. That's amazing. Global Tea Hut subscriptions are what will ultimately build the center, so you can participate in that way. And we are going to have some specific ways that you can show up and serve. Some will be service-based, and some will actually have financial opportunities as well. We're going to have a job coming up, a job or two. So I'm really happy that those, it's not time yet to name them. That will happen soon, but there's a couple that have come on board into our board. We already have an amazing board. We have people that have been contributing for years, like the amazing Jared Krause, without whom there would not be a Global Tea Hut or a Light Meets Life to speak of. If you're anywhere near that brother, give him a big hug, because he's amazing, he's unbelievable, and he's done so much for us, and others as well. But it's like what is inspiring to me is that it seems like the universe wants Light Meets Life because the right people are starting to show up, people that have skills and intelligences and talents and understandings of the things that we need and how to achieve them. So with that, we're going to end our broadcast for this month. We'll be here at the end of the month to talk about the tea of the month, the Purple Red Tea Evening Sky. I'll probably drink that one and the expansion pack version, and we can then talk about both and talk about how they're different and answer all your questions. If you haven't yet gotten an expansion pack, I would get one. They're available. There's 20 left. Absolutely amazing. We'll be drinking them at the end of this month and answering all the questions. Thank you so much. I love you all very much. Stay devoted, stay focused. I will, and hopefully when you see me at the end of this month, I will have continued to exercise and lose weight and maybe lost that other half of the other 8 kg and be looking a brighter, thinner, more glowing woo.